The morning sun shone bright over the Meridian Children's Haven. Children from 47 different species played in the gardens. Their laughter filled the air like music. Some had blue skin, others had scales, and many looked just like human children. They all called this place home. Commander Ji-hoon Park watched his adopted daughter Min-jun chase a group of Altarian children around the playground. She was 8 years old, with bright eyes and a smile that could light up any room. Her real parents had died in a mining accident on Kepler Station. Now, she was his whole world. The orphanage was huge. It housed 2,000 children who had nowhere else to go. Earth had built it 50 years ago, when humanity joined the Galactic Federation. It was a symbol of peace and hope. Every species in the galaxy knew about it. They sent their orphaned children here because humans were known as the best caregivers. Ji-hoon worked as a naval officer, but he also served as a diplomatic liaison. His job was to keep peace between different species. He was good at it because he understood that every being in the galaxy wanted the same things: safety, love, and a chance to grow. The children at the orphanage proved that different species could live together. Human children played with Zephyrian cubs. Crystalline Valdari younglings shared toys with fuzzy Miznershan kittens. The staff taught them all the same lessons about kindness, respect, and working together. Today was supposed to be the annual Harmony Festival. Children had been preparing for weeks. They made decorations that combined art styles from dozens of worlds. The kitchen staff prepared foods from every corner of the galaxy. It would be beautiful. Ji-hoon kissed Min-jun goodbye and headed to his office. She ran back to her friends, her black hair bouncing as she moved. He watched her for a moment, feeling grateful for the life they had built together. At the naval base, everything seemed normal. Ships came and went carrying diplomats and trade goods. The Galactic Federation had been peaceful for over 30 years. Small conflicts happened sometimes, but nothing major. The galaxy had learned that cooperation worked better than war. Then the alarm started. The first reports came from the outer sensors. Kethran ships were approaching Earth. This was strange, because the Kethrans usually stayed in their own territory. They were a warrior species that believed strength was the only thing that mattered. Most other species avoided them. Ji-hoon ran to the command center. Admiral Chen was already there, her face worried. The sensor data showed at least 50 Kethran warships moving toward Earth at high speed. "Have they responded to our communications?" Ji-hoon asked. "Nothing," Admiral Chen replied. The Kethrans had been quiet for years. Their leader, War Prime Thax, sometimes made speeches about how other species were weak, but they had never actually attacked anyone unprovoked. The Federation had tried many times to include them in peaceful talks, but they always refused. Ji-hoon felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. Something was very wrong. The Kethran ships entered Earth's orbit without permission. Their weapons were charged and ready. Federation patrol ships moved to intercept them, but the Kethrans were ready for a fight. "Sir, they're targeting civilian areas," a technician called out. Ji-hoon looked at the tactical display. His blood turned to ice. The main target was not the military bases or government buildings. It was the Meridian Children's Haven. "Get me a channel to their fleet commander," Admiral Chen ordered. The main screen flickered. A massive Kethran warrior appeared. His gray skin was covered in scars, and his 4 arms held weapons. His name was General Vorthok, and his eyes held nothing but hate. "You weak humans have poisoned this galaxy long enough," Vorthok snarled. "Your soft ways make other species forget their strength. Today, we show them what real power looks like." "General, that facility contains children," Admiral Chen said. "Innocent children from dozens of species." "Exactly," Vorthok replied with a cruel smile. "When we destroy your precious orphanage, the galaxy will see how worthless human compassion really is. Strength is all that matters." Ji-hoon stepped forward. Those children have done nothing wrong. They are under Federation protection. Vorthok laughed, a sound like breaking metal. Federation protection? Where are the other species now? They send their unwanted young to you because they are too weak to care for them themselves. Today they learn the cost of weakness. The channel closed. Immediately, the Kethran ships began their attack. Ji-hoon ran to his personal ship. He had to get to the orphanage. He had to save Min-jun and all the other children. But even as his ship lifted off, he could see explosions in the distance. The orphanage had defensive shields, but they were designed to stop accidents, not military weapons. The Kethran bombardment broke through in minutes. Buildings that had stood for 50 years crumbled like sand. Ji-hoon's ship was fast, but not fast enough. By the time he reached the orphanage, most of it was gone. Smoke and fire covered the area where children had been playing just hours before. He landed and ran through the wreckage. Emergency teams were already there, pulling survivors from the rubble. But there were so few survivors. Most of the children had been in the main building when it was hit. Ji-hoon found Min-jun under a collapsed wall. She was not breathing. Her small hand still held a flower she had picked for the festival. He held her close and felt his heart break into pieces. Around him, other people wept for lost children. Staff members who had dedicated their lives to caring for these young ones sat in shock. Alien parents, who had trusted their children to human care, arrived to find only grief. The final count was devastating. 1,847 children had died. Only 153 survived, and many of those were badly hurt. Children from dozens of species, all innocent, all loved, all gone. The Kethrans broadcast their attack across the galaxy. They wanted everyone to see what they had done. Vorthok appeared on screens throughout Federation space. "See how easy it was to destroy humanity's greatest achievement," he said. "This is what happens when species choose weakness over strength. The Kethran supremacy will no longer tolerate soft thinking. In this galaxy, for 3 days, Earth was silent. No ships left. No communications went out. The government buildings were dark. It seemed like humanity had been broken by the attack. Other species sent messages of sympathy. The Federation called emergency meetings. Some demanded immediate action against the Kethrans, but others urged caution. They said violence would only lead to more violence. On the 4th day, Ji-hoon stood in what remained of the orphanage playground. In his hands, he held Min-jun's flower, now dried and brown. Around him lay the graves of nearly 2,000 children. He was no longer the peaceful diplomat he had been. Something fundamental had changed inside him, just as it had changed inside every human on Earth. "They wanted to teach us about strength," he said quietly to the empty playground. "Now, we will teach them about consequences." That same day, humanity began recalling every military officer from across the galaxy. Ships that had been exploring distant stars turned around and headed home. Research stations became weapons factories. Peace treaties were quietly suspended. The last official message from Earth was simple. Diplomatic protocols suspended. Do not contact us until further notice. The galaxy had seen humanity grieve. Soon, it would see humanity at war. 6 months had passed since the attack. Earth looked very different now. The peaceful blue planet that had welcomed visitors from across the galaxy was gone. In its place was something the universe had never seen before. Ji-hoon Park was no longer a diplomatic liaison. He now held the rank of Supreme Military Commander, a position that had not existed before the attack. The gentleman who had once mediated disputes between species had become something else entirely. His new office was in the depths of the lunar military complex. The walls were covered with tactical displays showing every Kethran world, every ship, every military base. He had spent months studying their civilization, learning everything about them. The Kethrans were proud warriors. They had conquered 12 star systems through pure military might. Their society was built on strength and honor in battle. They believed that showing mercy was the greatest weakness possible. But Ji-hoon had discovered something interesting. In their 200 years of warfare, the Kethrans had always fought the same way. They would charge straight at their enemies with overwhelming force. They relied on their superior technology and natural strength to win. They had never faced an enemy that refused to fight by their rules. "Commander, the production reports are ready," said Captain Sarah Williams. She had been a cargo ship pilot before the attack. Now she managed the largest military production operation in human history. "Show me," Ji-hoon said. The numbers were staggering. Every human colony had been converted to military production. Mining ships became weapon platforms. Passenger vessels were redesigned as stealth ships. Even civilian factories now built military equipment around the clock. But the most important changes were invisible. Humans had always been good at adapting and solving problems. Now they turned these skills toward war in ways no other species had ever imagined. "The new ships are ready for testing," Captain Williams continued. "They look like normal cargo vessels from the outside." Ji-hoon nodded. This was part of his strategy. The Kethrans expected their enemies to build big warships and fight honorable battles. They would never expect attacks from ships that looked like harmless traders. "What about the psychological warfare division?" "Dr. Martinez says they're ready. They've analyzed every Kethran cultural symbol and belief system. They know exactly how to break their morale. Before the attack, humans had studied alien cultures to understand and help them. Now they studied cultures to find weaknesses they could exploit." Ji-hoon walked to the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum, he could see Earth below. Huge construction projects covered the continents. Orbital shipyards built vessels unlike anything in Federation databases. The planet that had once been known for its universities and art museums now looked like a fortress. Other human officers joined him at the observation deck. These were people who had lost everything in the attack. Admiral Foster had lost 2 grandsons. General Kim had lost her sister, who worked at the orphanage. Colonel Jackson had lost his best friend's children. They all had the same look in their eyes now. It was not hatred exactly. It was something colder and more dangerous than hate. "Sir, we're receiving complaints from the Federation," said Admiral Foster. "They say our military buildup is making other species nervous." "What do they suggest we do?" Ji-hoon asked. "They want us to return to diplomatic solutions. They say violence only creates more violence." Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated the communication system. "Admiral Chen, please send a message to the Federation Council," he said. "Tell them that humanity appreciates their concern, but we will handle the Kethran situation in our own way." "Should I mention the timeline, sir?" "No. Let them wonder when we'll act. The Kethrans think they know us. The Federation thinks they know us. They're all about to learn they were wrong." In another part of the complex, human scientists worked on projects that would have been impossible to imagine before the attack. Dr. Lisa Chen led a team that was designing new types of weapons. These were not just bigger guns or stronger missiles. They were weapons designed specifically to fight Kethran psychology. "The fear field generators are working perfectly, Doctor," Chen reported to Ji-hoon during their daily meeting. "Kethran brain patterns react very strongly to specific frequencies. We can make them feel terror without any physical damage. And the memory extractors? Ready for field testing. We can pull tactical information from captured enemies in minutes instead of months." These were technologies that peaceful humanity would never have developed. But peaceful humanity was dead, killed, along with those children 6 months ago. Across the galaxy, other species watched humanity's transformation with growing concern. The Altarians, who had sent many children to the orphanage, offered to help with the war effort. The Zephyrians quietly began moving their ships away from Kethran space. But some species were frightened of what humanity was becoming. The Valdari Crystal Council sent a formal protest to Earth. They said humans were becoming as bad as the Kethrans themselves. Ji-hoon read their message and deleted it without responding. The Kethrans, meanwhile, were not worried at all. War Prime Thox gave speeches about how humans were too weak to ever threaten a warrior race. General Vorthak, who had led the attack on the orphanage, was promoted and given command of the entire border defense fleet. They saw humanity's military buildup, but they thought it was just normal preparation for a conventional war. They had no idea what was really coming. "Sir, the first strike force is ready," Captain Williams reported. 50 ships designed to look like civilian vessels. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a battlecruiser. And the crews? All volunteers, all people who lost someone in the attack. Ji-hoon looked at the list of names. These were teachers, doctors, engineers, artists, people who had never wanted to hurt anyone. Now, they were willing to die for revenge. "Begin Phase 1, he ordered. That night, 50 human ships left Earth's solar system. To any observer, they looked like normal cargo vessels and passenger ships. Their destinations were scattered across the galaxy, seemingly random. But Ji-hoon knew exactly where each ship was going. The Kethrans had taught humanity a lesson about power by attacking innocent children. Now, humanity would teach them a lesson about consequences. "Commander," Admiral Foster said quietly, "once we begin this, there's no going back. We'll never be the same species we were before." Ji-hoon thought about Minjun's smile. He thought about all the children who would never grow up because the Kethrans wanted to prove a point about strength. "Good," he said. "The species we were before couldn't protect those children. The species we're becoming will make sure this never happens again." In the distance, the first human strike ships disappeared into hyperspace. They carried with them something the galaxy had never seen: humans who had learned to fight without mercy, without rules, and without limits. The Kethrans thought they had won by destroying an orphanage. They were about to discover they had awakened something far more dangerous than any warrior race. They had awakened humanity's capacity for total war. The first human attacks began at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. They struck 17 different Kethran systems simultaneously. But not in any way the proud warrior race expected. In the Kethras Beta system, a human cargo ship approached the main space station. It looked normal. Just another trader, bringing goods from the outer colonies. The Kethran guards barely looked at it as it docked. 5 minutes later, the station's power grid failed completely. Emergency systems died. Communications went dark. The humans had used a weapon that simply turned off everything electronic. No explosions, no casualties, just complete technological failure. The Kethran warriors were stuck floating in space with no way to call for help. In the Thaxos system, 3 human passenger ships seemed to have engine problems near a major Kethran mining operation. When Kethran rescue ships approached to help, they discovered the broken human vessels were actually packed with advanced jamming equipment. Every Kethran military communication in the system was cut off. Orders could not be sent. Reinforcements could not be called. The mining operation was left completely isolated. Ji-hoon watched the reports come in from his command center on Luna. This was only the beginning of his strategy. The Kethrans expected humans to build big warships and fight honorable battles. Instead, humans were fighting like ghosts, striking at infrastructure and disappearing. "All Phase 1 objectives completed successfully, sir," Captain Williams reported. 17 Kethran systems are now cut off from their command structure. "Any human casualties?" "None, sir. Our people followed the plan perfectly." This was important to Ji-hoon. He did not want to waste human lives on revenge. Every person was precious now. They would win through intelligence and planning, not through throwing bodies at the enemy. "Begin Phase 2, he ordered. Phase 2 was psychological warfare. Something the Kethrans had never experienced before. They were used to enemies who attacked their ships and fought their soldiers. They were not prepared for an enemy that attacked their minds. Human ships began broadcasting across Kethran space. But these were not normal military threats or demands for surrender. Instead, they showed footage of the Orphanage attack over and over again. Every Kethran world received the same message. You taught us that children are acceptable targets. Now we teach you about consequences. The broadcasts showed the faces of every child who had died. Human children, yes, but also Kethran children, who had been at the orphanage. Young Kethrans whose families had sent them to Earth because they believed humans could give them a better life. General Vorthak had killed children of his own species, along with all the others. Dr. Martinez led the psychological warfare team from a hidden base in the asteroid belt. She had studied Kethran culture for months, learning what frightened them most. Kethrans respect strength, but they fear being seen as weak, she explained to Ji-hoon during their daily briefing. The idea that their own leader killed Kethran children is destroying their morale. Some of their colonies are already questioning the supremacy. What about their military? The warriors are getting angry, but not at us. They're getting angry at their own leadership for attacking children. In Kethran culture, even warriors are supposed to protect the young. 2. This was the genius of Ji-hoon's strategy. He was not just fighting the Kethran military. He was turning their own people against them. The broadcasts continued for weeks. They showed the children's artwork from the orphanage. They showed video of different species playing together. They showed what the Kethrans had destroyed when they chose to attack innocents. And slowly, cracks began to appear in Kethran society. On Kethros Prime, the Kethran homeworld, protests began. Not against humans, but against War Prime Thox and his decision to attack children. Kethran parents who had sent their own young to the orphanage demanded answers. Why did you kill our children? They asked. What honor is there in murdering innocents? Thox tried to maintain control by giving speeches about human weakness and the necessity of strength. But his own people were no longer listening. Meanwhile, human attacks continued across Kethran space, but they were unlike any attacks in galactic history. Humans did not destroy cities or kill civilians. Instead, they dismantled the Kethran military piece by piece. Weapons factories simply stopped working when their computer systems were infected with human viruses. Supply ships found their cargo holds empty after human infiltration teams stole everything overnight. Military bases discovered their own defense systems turned against them. The Kethrans tried to fight back, but they could not find the human fleet. Traditional sensors could not detect ships that looked like civilian vessels. Kethran warriors trained for honorable combat were helpless against an enemy that refused to fight by the rules. Sir, the Federation is requesting an immediate meeting, Admiral Foster informed Ji-hoon. They say our actions are destabilizing the entire galaxy. Let them wait, Ji-hoon replied. We're just getting started. The Federation had sent messages of sympathy after the orphanage attack. They had called for justice and peaceful solutions. But when the Kethrans ignored all diplomatic attempts, the Federation had done nothing. Now they were concerned because humanity was actually solving the problem. Ambassador Sarah Kim, who had been Earth's representative to the Federation before the attack, was now Ji-hoon's advisor on galactic politics. She understood how other species thought. The Federation is scared, she told him. They've never seen humans act this way before. Are we? Ji-hoon asked. Ambassador Kim considered this carefully. We're becoming something new. Something the galaxy has never seen. But we're not killing innocents. We're not destroying cities. We're just showing the Kethrans that actions have consequences. This was true. Despite their anger and grief, humans had not targeted Kethran civilians. They attacked only military targets and infrastructure. No Kethran children had been harmed by human weapons. But the psychological impact was devastating. The mighty Kethran supremacy, which had conquered 12 star systems through military might, was being taken apart by an enemy they could barely find. General Vorthak, The Kethran, who had led the orphanage attack, tried desperately to locate the human fleet. His ships searched every system on the border, but they found nothing. The humans struck and vanished like smoke. "Where are they?" he demanded of his officers. "How can an entire fleet be invisible?" His officers had no answers. Kethran technology was powerful but straightforward. They had never learned to be sneaky or subtle. They won through strength and direct attack. Humans were teaching them that there were other ways to wage war. "Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from 3 Kethran colony worlds," Captain Williams reported to Ji-hoon. "They want to negotiate separate peace treaties." This was exactly what Ji-hoon had hoped for. The Kethran supremacy was beginning to break apart as individual worlds lost faith in their leadership. "Accept their surrenders," he ordered. "But make it clear that we will only negotiate with governments that hand over everyone involved in planning the orphanage attack." "What about Warprime Thox and General Vorthak?" "They will answer for what they did. Every single one of them." Ji-hoon looked at the tactical display showing Kethran space. Red areas showed systems that had lost contact with their command. Yellow areas showed worlds that were considering surrender. Only a few systems remained fully under supremacy control. The proud warrior race was discovering what total war actually meant. It was not about honor or strength. It was about destroying your enemy's ability and will to fight. And humanity was very, very good at it. The lessons were just beginning. 8 months after the first human attacks began, the Kethran supremacy was falling apart. What had once been a proud empire of 12 star systems was now a scattered collection of frightened worlds, each trying to save itself. Ji-hoon Park stood before a massive holographic display in his command center. It showed the current state of Kethran space. Most systems were marked in green, meaning they had surrendered to human forces. A few showed yellow, indicating they were negotiating surrender terms. Only 3 systems remained red, still under control of Warprime Thox and his loyal forces. "General Vorthak has been located, sir," reported Colonel Martinez, who had been promoted after the success of the psychological warfare campaign. "Our intelligence teams tracked him to a hidden base in the Kethtar asteroid field." Ji-hoon felt a cold satisfaction. Vorthak was the one who had personally ordered the attack on the orphanage. The one who had smiled while announcing the death of nearly 2,000 children. How many ships does he have? 17 heavy cruisers and about 40 smaller vessels. He's gathered the most loyal Kethran warriors around him. They're calling themselves the true warriors and claiming they'll never surrender. Then they'll die. Ji-hoon said simply. "Prepare the hunter squadrons." The hunter squadrons were Ji-hoon's newest creation. Unlike the stealth ships that had been attacking infrastructure, these were designed for one purpose: to hunt down and destroy specific targets. They were crewed entirely by humans who had lost family in the orphanage attack. Captain Lisa Park led Hunter Squadron Alpha. She shared Ji-hoon's family name, but was not related to him. Her son had died at the orphanage, and she had volunteered for the most dangerous missions. She was no longer the civilian engineer she had been before the attack. Now she was something much more dangerous. "Sir, Federation Ambassador Kellyan is requesting an immediate audience," Admiral Foster announced. "He says it's urgent." The Valdari crystal being had been trying to meet with Ji-hoon for weeks. The Federation was deeply concerned about humanity's transformation and wanted to negotiate a peace treaty. "Tell him I'll meet with him after we finish our current operation," Ji-hoon replied. "He says the Federation is prepared to place sanctions on Earth if we don't stop our military actions immediately." Ji-hoon turned to look at Admiral Foster. His expression was completely calm, which somehow made it more frightening than anger would have been. "Did Ambassador Kellyan place sanctions on the Kethrans after they murdered 2,000 children?" "No, sir. The Federation said sanctions would be ineffective against a warrior culture." "Then tell him that sanctions will be equally ineffective against us. We'll stop when the people who planned the orphanage attack are dead or in custody. Not before." While Ji-hoon dealt with Federation politics, Captain Lisa Park was leading her hunter squadron toward the asteroid field where General Vorthak was hiding. Her ships looked like normal patrol vessels from the outside, but they carried weapons designed specifically to fight Kethran technology. The asteroid field was huge, full of floating rocks and metal debris. It was a perfect place to hide a fleet, but human sensor technology had evolved during the war. They could track the specific energy signatures of Kethran ships even through heavy interference. Target located, her weapons officer reported. Kethran heavy cruiser, bearing 2-7, Mark IV. It's the flagship. Lisa felt her heart rate increase. That ship contained the being who had killed her son. The being who had bragged about murdering children to prove a point about strength. All ships. This is Hunter Alpha, she broadcast to her squadron. Remember why we're here. Remember what they took from us. No mercy. The attack began without warning. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids and opened fire with weapons the Kethrans had never seen before. These were not the crude energy blasters that most species used. They were precision instruments designed to disable specific systems. Vorthak's flagship found its weapons offline before his crew even knew they were under attack. Other Kethran ships discovered their engines dead, their communications cut, their life support systems failing. This was not a battle. It was an execution. Human vessels, I demand honorable combat. Vorthak's voice came over the communication system. Face us in open battle like true warriors. Lisa Park activated her personal channel to the Kethran flagship. You want to talk about honor? You killed children, Vorthak. Innocent children who trusted us to protect them. They were weak. All weak things must be destroyed. Then you should understand what's about to happen to you. The Hunter Squadron systematically destroyed Vorthak's fleet. Ship by ship, the true warriors were eliminated. Their advanced weapons were useless against human tactics. Their proud warrior tradition meant nothing against human determination. When only Vorthak's flagship remained, Lisa's squadron surrounded it. The Kethran general tried to ram his ship into one of the human vessels, preferring death to capture. But human technology was too advanced. They simply disabled his engines and captured the ship intact. General Vorthak is in custody, sir, Lisa reported to Ji-hoon an hour later. He'll be transported to Earth for trial. Any human casualties? None, sir. Our people followed the plan perfectly. This had been true throughout the war. Human tactics were so superior that they rarely lost anyone in combat. They fought smart instead of fighting hard. They used their brains instead of their brute strength. Meanwhile, on Kethros Prime, War Prime, Tox was facing a crisis that no amount of military might could solve. His own people were turning against him. The broadcasts showing the Orphanage attack had destroyed his support among ordinary Kethrans. War Prime. The 4th Colony Fleet has surrendered to the humans, his aide reported. That leaves us with only the home fleet and 2 border squadrons. Thax looked older than his years. The proud leader who had authorized the Orphanage attack was now a broken being, watching his empire crumble. How many humans have we killed? He asked. In the entire war? Maybe 50, sir. They don't fight like we expected. This was the most humiliating part for the Kethrans. They had started a war by killing nearly 2,000 innocents. In response, humanity had systematically destroyed their entire civilization while barely taking any casualties themselves. The humans fought like nothing the Kethrans had ever encountered. They were patient, precise, and absolutely ruthless in pursuing their goals. But they were not cruel for the sake of cruelty. They simply refused to stop until justice was served. Sir, we're receiving a message from Earth, the aide continued. It's addressed to you personally. Thox activated the communication system. Ji-hoon Park's face appeared on the screen. The human looked tired, but determined. War Prime Thox, Ji-hoon said. Your empire is finished. Your fleets are destroyed. Your colonies have surrendered. You have 2 choices. What are they? Thox asked quietly. Surrender now, and face trial for crimes against innocent children, or continue fighting and watch us destroy everything you've ever built. Either way, you will answer for what you did. And if I surrender, what happens to my people? The Kethran people will be allowed to rebuild their civilization under Federation supervision. They are not responsible for your crimes, but you and everyone who planned the orphanage attack will face justice. Thox considered his options. He could fight to the end and take his people down with him. Or he could surrender and face the consequences of his actions alone. For the first time in his life, the proud warrior chose wisdom over strength. I will surrender, he said. But I want guarantees that my people will be treated fairly. You're not in a position to make demands, Ji-hoon replied. But humanity doesn't wage war against innocence. Your people will be protected. The transmission ended. War Prime Thax sat in silence for a long moment. Then he gave the order that ended the Kethran supremacy forever. All forces, stand down, we surrender. The war was over. But for Ji-hoon Park and the transformed humanity he represented, the real work was just beginning. They had proven that attacking human children was a mistake that carried the ultimate price. Now they had to decide what kind of galaxy they wanted to build from the ashes of their revenge. 1 year after the orphanage attack, Ji-hoon Park stood in the rebuilt Meridian Children's Haven. The new building was larger than before and designed like a fortress. The walls could withstand military bombardment. The shields could stop entire fleets. Never again would human children be defenseless. But it was still a place of joy. Children from dozens of species played in the gardens. Their laughter echoed through halls that had once been silent with grief. New orphans had come to replace those who were lost, and humans welcomed them all. The difference was that now everyone in the galaxy knew what would happen to anyone who threatened these children. The last of the war criminals have been sentenced, Admiral Foster reported as she joined Ji-hoon in the memorial garden. War Prime Thox and General Vorthok had faced trial for their crimes. Both had been found guilty and executed. Their followers received prison terms based on their level of involvement. What about the Kethran people themselves? Ji-hoon asked. They're rebuilding under Federation supervision. Most of them seem genuinely ashamed of what their leaders did. They've established their own memorial for the children who died. This was important to Ji-hoon. He had never wanted to destroy an entire species. His war had been against those who chose to murder innocents, not against ordinary Kethrans, who had played no part in the attack. The galaxy had changed dramatically since the war ended. Humanity was now recognized as the dominant military power, but it was a strange kind of dominance. Humans had not conquered territory or demanded tribute. They had simply proven that certain lines could not be crossed. The Federation Council wants to make you Supreme Commander of all Federation forces, Admiral Foster continued. They say the galaxy needs human leadership to prevent future conflicts. Ji-hoon shook his head. Tell them no. Humans will defend our interests and protect children everywhere, but we won't rule over other species. That's not who we are. This decision confused many aliens. Species that gained military superiority usually used it to build empires. But humanity seemed content to return to peaceful pursuits as long as everyone understood the consequences of threatening human children. Ambassador Sarah Kim approached from the main building. She had been working with the Federation to establish new galactic laws, protecting children of all species. The Children's Protection Accords have been signed by all member species, she announced. Any attack on civilian children is now considered a crime against the entire galaxy. Enforcement? Humanity will handle enforcement. No other species wants that responsibility. This was the galaxy's way of acknowledging the new reality. Humans had proven they could wage total war more effectively than any warrior race. But they only used this ability to protect the innocent. Other species were happy to let humans serve as galactic protectors, as long as they remained focused on justice rather than conquest. Dr. Martinez joined them in the garden. She had been studying the psychological effects of the war on human society. "How are our people adapting to peace?" Ji-hoon asked her. "It's been difficult for some," she admitted. "We transformed an entire civilization for war. Now we have to transform it back for peace. But I think we're succeeding." The transformation had been remarkable. Humans had gone from peaceful diplomats to the galaxy's most feared warriors in less than 2 years. They had developed new technologies, new strategies, and new ways of thinking about conflict. But they had also retained their essential humanity, their compassion for the innocent, and their commitment to justice. "The important thing is that we remember why we fought, Doctor," Martinez continued. "We didn't fight for conquest or glory. We fought because children were murdered and no one else would seek justice." Ji-hoon walked to the memorial wall where the names of all the children were inscribed. Min-jun's name was there, along with 1,846 others. Each name represented a life cut short by cruelty and hatred. "Sir, there's something else," Admiral Foster said quietly. "Our intelligence networks are reporting increased aggression from the Scarith hegemony. They've been testing our border defenses." The Scarith were another aggressive species that believed in conquest through military might. They had been watching humanity's war against the Kethrans with great interest. Some Scarith leaders thought humans had gotten lucky and could be defeated with proper tactics. "Are they threatening civilians?" Ji-hoon asked. "Not yet. Just military probing. But their propaganda talks about how humans are now too dangerous to exist peacefully." Ji-hoon considered this. The galaxy was learning that humanity had changed, but some species were slow learners. They saw human military power and thought only of how to counter it. They did not understand that humans only wanted to be left in peace. "Monitor the situation," he ordered. "If they threaten civilians, especially children, respond immediately. Otherwise, let them probe. They'll learn." This was the new human doctrine. Humanity would not start wars, but they would finish any war that others began. They had proven this capability against the Kethrans, and they were ready to prove it again if necessary. Captain Lisa Park approached the group. She had been promoted again and now commanded the Seoul Defense Fleet. Like many humans, she had been transformed by the war. The peaceful engineer was gone, replaced by a skilled military commander, but she had also found new purpose in protecting others. "Sir, the new orphanage ships are ready for deployment," she reported. "We'll be able to evacuate children from any threatened world within hours." This was another change from the war. Humans had built special ships designed to rescue civilians from danger zones. If anyone threatened children anywhere in the galaxy, humans could respond faster than any military force. "How many children can we protect?" Ji-hoon asked. "Each ship can carry 5,000. We have 20 ships ready now, with more under construction. No child in Federation space will ever be defenseless again." This promise meant everything to Ji-hoon. The children who died in the original attack could not be brought back. But their deaths had led to a galaxy where all children were protected by human determination. A group of young beings ran past them in the garden, human children playing with Altarian cubs, Zephyrian younglings, and even a few young Kethrans whose parents had sent them to Earth seeking forgiveness and understanding. "They don't know how close they came to a very different galaxy," Ambassador Kim observed. "Good," Ji-hoon replied. "Children should be able to play without worrying about politics and war." As the sun set over the memorial garden, Ji-hoon thought about how much had changed. Humanity had been forced to become something they never wanted to be, a warrior species capable of total war. But they had done so in service of their deepest values: the protection of innocence and the pursuit of justice. The galaxy was safer now. Other aggressive species had seen what happened to the Kethrans and reconsidered their own expansion plans. The Federation had new laws protecting children everywhere. and humanity stood ready to enforce those laws with overwhelming force if necessary. "Sir, would you like to record a message for the memorial service tomorrow?" Admiral Foster asked. Tomorrow marked 1 year since the attack. "Yes," Ji-hoon said. "I want every species in the galaxy to hear it." That evening, Ji-hoon recorded a message that would be broadcast throughout Federation space. He stood in the rebuilt orphanage, surrounded by playing children. 1 year ago, the Kethran supremacy attacked this place because they wanted to prove that strength was more important than compassion. They killed nearly 2,000 children to make their point. They succeeded in teaching the galaxy about strength, but not in the way they expected. They taught us that the greatest strength is not the power to destroy, but the will to protect. They taught us that some lines cannot be crossed without consequences. They taught us that those who threaten children will face the full power of human determination. Humanity did not want to become a warrior species. We preferred peace, diplomacy, and cooperation. But when others made that impossible, we learned to wage total war more effectively than any empire in galactic history. We did this not for conquest or glory, but for justice. For the children who died. For the children who survive. For the children yet to be born. Today, the galaxy is at peace. Children of all species play safely under human protection. The laws of war now recognize that civilians, especially children, are forever off limits. This is the legacy of those who died here. Their sacrifice taught the galaxy that some things are sacred, some innocence must be preserved, some evil must be answered. To any who would threaten children in the future, understand this. Humanity has learned to fight total war. We have learned to be patient, precise, and absolutely ruthless in pursuing justice. We have shown that we can dismantle entire civilizations without losing our humanity. But we have also learned to be merciful to those who choose peace over aggression. The Kethran people are rebuilding their society in freedom. Other aggressive species have found new paths forward. The galaxy prospers under the protection of those strong enough to enforce justice. This is our promise to the children of all worlds. You are safe. You are protected. You are loved. And anyone who threatens you will discover what humanity is truly capable of. May the galaxy never again need to see our full strength. But know that it is always there, watching, waiting, ready to protect the innocent. Sleep well, children of the stars. Humanity stands guard. The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Some species heard it as a threat. Others heard it as a promise. But everyone understood the same basic truth. Humanity had become the guardian of the innocent. And that guardianship came with the power to enforce it. Absolutely. The children in the orphanage garden played on, unaware that their laughter was protected by the most powerful military force in galactic history. And that was exactly how Ji-hoon Park wanted it to be. The memorial garden grew quiet as night fell. But somewhere in the darkness, human ships moved silently through space, watching over a galaxy that had learned the true meaning of strength.